Natchez Trace and Meriwether Lewis. Why did I do the entire Lewis and Clark exhibition on the original path? One little road trip introduced me to my greatest road trip of my lifetime. In December 2013, I was traveling through Tennessee, heading from Memphis to Nashville, and I had 2 days to explore the sites. I planned to visit Shiloh National Military Park, specifically the Shiloh battlefield that raged around the Shiloh Church. After a day on the battlefield, and to make the drive to Nashville, I decided to take the Natchez Trace Parkway. You could call me a Civil War nerd because I have walked the majority of the Civil War battlefields. I have traveled a couple of hours out of my way to visit a battlefield. On this day, I'm adding Shiloh in Tennessee to my list. This place is not easy to get to, but the journey itself is part of the fun. The Shiloh battlefield, located in southwestern Tennessee near Pittsburgh Landing on the Tennessee River, was the site of one of the Civil War's earliest and bloodiest clashes. Fought on April 6 to 7, 1862, the Battle of Shiloh, also known as the Battle of Pittsburgh Landing, marked a turning point in the Western theater of the war. The Tennessee River winds northward past Pittsburgh Landing. Confederate troops planned to capture this landing. Don Carlos Buell Union troops were disembarked here for the second day of the Battle of Shiloh and helped win the battle for the North. Today, Shiloh National Military Park preserves the battlefield, complete with monuments, interpretive trails, and the haunting stillness of places like the Shiloh Church and Bloody Pond. It's a place where history feels close enough to touch. The aftermath was staggering, nearly 24,000 casualties combined, making it the bloodiest battle in American history up to that point. The Union victory shattered Confederate hopes of halting the Northern advance into Mississippi and underscored just how long and brutal the war would become. Union forces under Major General Ulysses S. Grant were camped near Shiloh Church when they were surprised by a Confederate attack led by General Albert Sidney Johnston, who was later mortally wounded during the battle. Despite early Confederate gains, a replica of the Shiloh Church has been built at Shiloh National Military Park, where it stood during the Battle of Shiloh. The battle, in which 23,000 Americans became casualties, was named for this church. Shiloh means peace. The Natchez Trace is a historic trail that stretches approximately 444 miles from Natchez, Mississippi to Nashville, Tennessee. It has a rich history dating back thousands of years. Initially used by Native Americans for trade and travel, the trail was later adopted by European settlers, traders, and explorers in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Natchez Trace Parkway is a beautiful stretch that is rich with history, nature, and quiet reflection. The drive from Tupelo, Mississippi to Nashville, Tennessee along the trace is approximately 185 miles and takes between 4 hours if you drive straight through. But the real magic is in taking your time. The speed limit is mostly 50 miles per hour, and there are no gas stations or fast food outlets along the parkway. Instead, you'll find uninterrupted beauty and history. It's like stepping back in time. Today, the Natchez Trace Parkway, following the path of the original trail, offers a breathtakingly scenic drive. It's a place where history and nature intertwine, creating a captivating destination for travelers who appreciate both historical significance and natural beauty. Old Trace section of the Natchez Trace Parkway Road in Tennessee. This is one of 2 locations along the parkway where travelers can drive on the old Natchez Trace. The Natchez Trace Parkway is a national parkway in the southeastern United States that commemorates the historic Natchez Trace and preserves sections of that original trail. The Natchez Trace, a vital route for cane tucks, boatmen who floated goods down the Mississippi River and then walked a road back home along the trace, played a significant role in U.S. history. It was used by soldiers, settlers, and even President Andrew Jackson during the War of 1812, cementing its place in the nation's historical narrative. Every footprint on that trail carried the weight of a hard-won journey, and now I wanted to experience it too. I was drawn to the Natchez Trace for its rich, layered past, indigenous trails, trade routes, and echoes of frontier travelers. Then, I stumbled upon one of the most mysterious and distressing moments in early American history. Not because I knew about it, but because a National Park Road sign jumped out at me. As I came to milepost 3D5 on the Natchez Trace Parkway, I saw the Meriwether Lewis monument sign. I perked up. I should have known about this, but I got the surprise of my life. It marks his burial site and includes a visitor center, hiking trails, and even a reconstructed version of Grinder's Stand. Meriwether was traveling alone on the trail the night he died. He was remarkably comfortable in the wilderness. He grew up in Virginia's backcountry, developing a deep connection with nature from an early age. By the time he led the Lewis and Clark expedition, he was not only a skilled outdoorsman, but also trained in botany, medicine, and celestial navigation. President Jefferson even chose him for the expedition because of his self-reliance and ability to thrive in remote, rugged environments. In his own words, Lewis once wrote, "As I have always held it a crime to anticipate evils, I will believe it a good, comfortable road until I'm compelled to believe differently." That mindset, optimistic, resilient, and grounded in experience, helped him navigate thousands of miles of uncharted territory. This current log cabin is not the original Grinder's Stand, but was constructed in the 1930s, just a few feet from where the original stood. The cabin was designed to resemble a typical early 1800s cabin along the Natchez Trace. Today, one side of that cabin houses museum exhibits about Lewis's final days and the Corps of Discovery, while the other side serves as the visitor contact station. It's a thoughtfully created space meant to honor history and help visitors connect with his story. Staring at the map on the wall, I caught myself daydreaming that these are places that I have always wanted to see. The Lewis and Clark expedition covered an astonishing 8,000-mile round trip over 862 days from May 1804 to September 1806. Along the way, they passed through parts of what are now 14 U.S. states: Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Minnesota, Kentucky, Indiana. The core trail from St. Louis to the Pacific and back touched the heart of the American frontier. The Lewis and Clark road trips, Exploring the Trail Across America by Kira Gale, is a fascinating blend of travel guide and historical atlas, perfect for anyone eager to retrace the legendary expedition by car. It covers over 800 destinations across 23 states, from the White House to the Pacific Ocean, and even down to New Orleans. What makes it especially engaging is how it offers multiple route options, from major highways to scenic byways that closely follow the original Lewis and Clark Trail. Each stop includes historical context, practical travel information such as hours and prices, and even cross-references to the explorers' journals. I picked up this large, thick book, The Lewis and Clark Road Trip by Kira Gale. I flipped through the pages, which included journal entries, maps, photos, and route details, and then I put it down because I wanted to visit his gravesite. I was always drawn to early American frontier history as a kid, so this stop on the trace, reading the sign, and learning about what happened that night to Captain Lewis was very powerful and emotional for me. The first thing I saw when I stepped outside the cabin was a simple circle of stones, and I thought it was a leftover campfire. Somehow that quiet spot said more than any sign ever could. I took a couple of steps toward the circle of stones, and I thought that the story still lingers in that soil. This place is more than just a historic site, and I felt that I had become part of a long line of people who've paused there to feel something. I kept getting closer because I think it meant something to me and how this great American died. Meriwether Lewis got his distinctive first name from his mother's side of the family, Lucy Meriwether, who came from a well-established Virginia lineage. Meriwether was originally a surname, and it was not uncommon in the 18th century for family surnames to be passed down as given names, especially to honor maternal heritage. The Meriwether Lewis Monument was built in 1848, just 39 years after he died in 1809, which remains a mystery. The Tennessee state legislature funded the memorial with $500 to preserve the site where Lewis died, along the Natchez Trace. It's a striking tribute, part obelisk, part broken column, symbolizing a life cut short. It's not a bustling tourist hub. The quiet and isolation all add to the gravity of standing at the grave of a man who helped map a continent and then vanished into mystery. In the language of Mr. Jefferson, his courage was undaunted, his firmness and perseverance yielded to nothing but impossibilities. A rigid disciplinarian, yet tender as a father of those committed to his charge. Honest, disinterested, liberal, with a sound understanding and a scrupulous fidelity to truth. Standing at Meriwether Lewis's gravesite, something clicked. I wasn't just reading history, I was standing in the middle of it. And when a kind couple offered to take my photo, I said yes. I never do that, but somehow it felt right, and I'm glad I did. There is a story about the sweatshirt I was wearing that day. I'll tell you the rest of the story after the 6,000 miles. As I stood by Meriwether Lewis's grave, I couldn't stop thinking about that map or the book. That's when it hit me. I had to go back to the gift shop and buy it. That book was calling me. Because in that moment, I knew. My next main goal was to travel all 6,000 miles of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Meriwether Lewis died in 1809, and the 100th anniversary of his death was marked in 1909. But the real turning point in honoring his legacy came a bit later. In 1925, President Calvin Coolidge officially established the Meriwether Lewis National Monument using the Antiquities Act. That act of recognition helped preserve the site and eventually led to its care under the National Park Service. There is also a pioneer cemetery at the Meriwether Lewis site. It's sometimes referred to as part of Meriwether Lewis Park. It holds a small number of graves, many of which are those of early settlers or individuals connected to the area's frontier history. The sign tells the great history of the Natchez Trace. As I leave on the road from the Natchez Trace to Nashville, there's something deeply American about this route. Centuries of resilience, struggle, and hope, woven into every bend in the trail and every mile ahead. God bless America. I knew. My next main goal was to travel all 6,000 miles of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Over 5 years, 2014, 2019, I went back and forth. When I stopped, I would come back and pick up the trail. This website, TravalAmericanHistory.com, will serve as a library of the journey, featuring how I mapped it out, trail segments, hidden gems along the route, and possibly even historic campsites or interpretive centers that bring the life journey to life. All from the book of Kira Gale, which would become my Bible.